Hi everybody, Jim Hill here with Vet Comp and Pen Medical Consulting, and today we're going to touch on the 6 distinctly different stages veterans or dependents find themselves in the VA disability claims process. Since this is a quick overview, I'm going to highlight the main differences between each stage so you can clearly identify where you fall into the process, and then once you know which stage or stages apply to you, we can drill down into more detail with you on the stuff that you care about and try and avoid bogging you down with a bunch of information that doesn't apply to you. Fair enough? Okay, great. Let's get started. As you can see with my fancy progressing stage artwork here, there are 6 different stages in the VA disability claims process. The stages are laid out from left to right with a typical timeline fashion. Stage 1 includes anyone who's still on active duty and has a year or less before they discharge from active duty. Stage 2 is a recently discharged veteran who has a year or less since they left active duty. Stage 3 is a veteran who discharged from active duty more than a year ago, and Stage 4 applies to a veteran who has filed a claim which is pending adjudication with the VA, which means the VA has not yet approved or denied the claim. Please note you can technically be in Stage 1, 2, or 3, and also in Stage 4 if you have already filed a claim with VA. Stage 5 can also apply to a veteran in Stages 1 through 4, and it's for veterans who filed a VA disability claim and the VA has already ruled on the claim and sent a VA award letter, and they've either approved it and assigned a service-connected disability rating anywhere from 0% to 100%, or the VA has denied your claim. Stage 6 applies to dependents of deceased veterans. There are certain circumstances where we may be able to assist a surviving spouse receive significant compensation in the event a veteran's death is somehow medically linked to a military-related event. So that's a quick explanation of the 6 major stages. Let's dive into a brief overview of what we do for veterans in each stage of the process. Stages 1 and 2 are so similar that I'm tempted to combine them into one stage, but there's some differences we'll dive into later if you're in these 2 stages. We start out reviewing all medical history, symptoms, and exposures for the veteran to get an idea of what we need to look for in the medical records to support potential claims. We do a thorough evaluation of all medical records, civilian, military, and VA if applicable. These stages are unique because if a veteran falls into this range where they haven't discharged from active duty, or it's been less than a year since they did discharge from active duty, we can review their case file and their evidence and oftentimes determine that they may be lacking the necessary evidence that's needed to receive service-connected claims they deserve. A very common example of this is when we work with some of our Special Forces, our Navy SEAL team veterans. Most of these guys have gone through some major issues during their service, but have been very reluctant to seek medical treatment for any injuries or psychological trauma, etc., since they were concerned that may get them put on limited duty status or lose their ability to serve in the capacity they've dedicated their lives to. When we review their medical consulting paperwork they submit to us and then compare that to information in their medical charts, we often find there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it into the medical chart since they intentionally and strategically chose not to go to the medical clinic for treatment, and they either self-medicated or they just dealt with the pain. As long as a veteran's either on active duty or within 365 days of separation from active duty, they can go to any doctor, civilian, military, or VA, and have that knee, ankle, or whatever looked at. And as long as the doctor finds valid evidence of an injury, we can make sure the VA recognizes that as valid medical evidence supporting the service connection for that potential disability. Once we have all the evidence documented and collected, we provide you a complete medical consulting package with the necessary independent medical opinions, DBQs, which are disability benefits questionnaires completed by the appropriate medical professionals, doctors, nurse practitioners, etc., for you to file with your initial claims, and we help guide you through the fully developed claims process for fast-tracking the processing of your claim to try and minimize the processing time for you. Again, we'll dive into this in more detail in the next phase of this video series. Stage 3 is similar to stages 1 and 2. However, since the veteran's been off active duty for more than a year, they can no longer establish new medical evidence for valid claims that are service-connected. We do the same medical history, symptoms, and exposure review and an exhaustive medical chart review as we do for the veterans in stage 1 and 2. And there's a little more work involved in this, but these are really the claims that we specialize in and have great success with first-round claims approvals. Moving on to stage 4, that's going to apply to any veteran who has an active claim that's been filed with VA, but it has not been adjudicated or ruled on. The exciting part of these claims is that VetComp and Penn can do a full review of your medical history, symptoms, and exposure, and we can review the claims that have been filed with VA and determine whether the application that's on file, whether it's sufficient to win the claim or not, or if it needs some support. In the event that it needs additional evidence, we'll amend the claim or claims before the VA rules on them and provide you a package to submit to VA to amend your claim. The cool part about this is it doesn't kick you to the back of the line. You don't lose your spot in the processing line. As long as we get the paperwork submitted before the VA begins adjudicating your claim, you don't lose any time and you dramatically improve the probability of you getting service connected. We'll also fully develop all secondary claims that may or may not have been addressed in your initial packet. If you have worked with folks who are not medical experts, doctors and so on, it's very likely that you have overlooked many secondary claims in your VA applications. This is a great opportunity to amend and file for the secondary claims since you don't lose your spot in the line. Moving on, veterans who are in stage 5 have already received a ruling on a previously filed claim, and VA has either approved the claim and established a service connection rating between 0% to 100% for that specific claim, or the VA has denied the claim. So we're going to first talk about the VA approving the claim and assigning a percentage disability rating. It's not uncommon at all for VA to really screw up the rating percentage that's granted to a veteran for a claim. So we conduct the full medical history, symptoms, exposure review. We go over the VA regional office ruling. We conduct an independent rating evaluation to determine what the proper percentage rating is in accordance with the 38 CFRs and all the case law, and we'll also fully develop all the secondary claims that have not been filed for any claims that were already approved. And we're typically able to uncover significant additional benefits that the veterans weren't even aware of when they went through this process. As a matter of fact, last summer we did a survey on 400 of our most recent clients, and they reported that on average they're actually receiving 102% more, or just over double the highest compensation they were expecting before they started working with us. So these secondary conditions often pay far more than the primary conditions. So there's usually a lot of meat left on the bone for us to help find. Now, in the case of a claim that's been denied, we'll do the review. If we feel that there's validity to the claim and it should have been approved, then what we will do is we will fully prepare the legal and medical appeal for you to file with your DRO or BVA and guide you through that process. And a lot of times we'll find that when we do this research that VA has overlooked something that's very obvious and they've failed to grant or award a benefit to a veteran due to what's classified as a clear and unmistakable error. In these situations, we're oftentimes able to find the veteran not only significant additional benefits, but also great retroactive benefits as well. Stage 6 relates to dependent benefits. We primarily work with widows to help them receive compensation when their late veteran spouse died from something that may be service-connected. It's worth noting that most of these dependent cases are for dependents of veterans who did not establish a service-connected disability with the VA prior to their death. So first, we must establish the service-connected disability and then establish the link between the veteran's death and that service-connected disability, which then and only then lays the foundation for the dependent to file and collect their benefits. In a case of a widow, it's usually around $1,250 per month, tax-free, for the rest of the widow's life. So this is a pretty substantial benefit and one that we feel honored to be able to assist with, and we're really experts in that particular field. So whether you have up to 1 year before discharge from active duty, you've discharged less than a year ago, or it's been more than a year since you discharged, or you have claim or multiple claims pending at the VA, or let's say the VA has already ruled on your claim, or you're a dependent of a veteran, our medical consulting services can add substantial value to your future benefits that you could receive for the rest of your life. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in most cases for the clients we work with. Now that you understand the various stages that we specialize in, let's take a moment, have you think about which stage or stages apply to you, and then check the appropriate boxes below this video and hit submit. In our next video, we'll go over a bit more detail about the specific stages you're in, and we'll also share with you what we do to help maximize your chances of receiving all the benefits you're entitled to. We'll also go over the major steps in the process, the typical timelines, what it takes to process for each type of claim, and what you can do to expedite your claims process and avoid unnecessary delays. We'll even share with you the 5 things to know before your next VA compensation and pension exam. Sound fair enough? Great. Let's get started with checking the boxes below and then clicking the submit button.